Okay, so the examples I'm going to bring up are perhaps a little bit different than the previous ones. As you know, we do a lot of China engagements. These are publicly listed companies in Canada with a stock exchange listing. That seems to be a very popular thing in Vancouver because we have many of these companies. Some of them have operations in China because for Chinese companies it's very attractive to try to get a listing somewhere, and the Vancouver marketplace is very good for that. So we've got a whole portfolio of these that we've been doing for a number of years. And they're operating companies, so they're not development stage. They have inventory, they have revenue, they have all the usual things. So the scope of the engagement in many cases that we're looking for was basically some assistance with the inventory and stock take for the audits that we were doing. These are full-fledged IFRS style financial statements with ISA audit requirements on them. And the fieldwork that we were asking for assistance with in many cases was essentially the stock count and physical observation of the inventory. Citing of the plant and equipment, which in many cases they have a lot of. We want to make sure it's actually there, not site and functional on the year-end day. And in some cases, on-site cash count or on-site bank confirmation on the day of. And because we've got so many of these, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 8 of them that need to be done all around the December 31st year-end date, it's really not practical for us to fly people from Vancouver into China to do these observations, especially on New Year's Day or around the holiday season in North America. So we rely on our affiliate to do this. We've used a couple of our affiliates in China. And essentially, what we're looking for is an understanding of the engagement. Basically, somebody who can do audit work and who knows about audit work and the requirements. Looking for an ability to document the work clearly and concisely to a high standard because, as you might expect, if you do public companies, we're also subject to inspection. By CPAP, which is our regulatory authority in Canada that inspects auditors that do public companies, and also by PCAOB. So the audit documentation that we're looking to receive from the member firm has to be clean, it has to be complete and concise, and we want to be able to put that right into our working paper file without having to change or modify it. We're just accepting that as part of our engagement. What else is key to doing that is communication. So we're looking for the member firm that we work with to be able to communicate with our team and our manager to do this. And a lot of the potential issues get avoided if you communicate earlier. And we've been able to receive that in most cases. Another case that we deal with when we're doing audits of public companies that have operations in China is the tax provision. So as you might expect, the tax provision in some cases can be quite significant. We're not China tax experts. We have a pretty good idea about Chinese tax and how it works, but in China there are some cases where you have special deals. So there could be anything from a special economic zone to, in some provinces and in some cities, the local administrative office of the tax department has made special deals with certain companies and with certain industry sectors where they won't be following the letter of the Chinese law. And these are very hard to deal with because you don't know whether you're looking at the real thing or not. So that's the scope of the engagement, typically. And what the work consisted of was primarily, I guess, a desk audit of that section of the file. So they would have access to the financial statements, the local financial statements, and the tax working papers, and the compliance tax filings done by the company. What we were looking for was essentially a review of all of that, and then some opinion back from the firm about whether or not that tax provision makes sense in the context of a Western-style IFRS financial statement. What we're looking for is really somebody who understands tax in China from the local perspective. We understand it globally at a high level, but usually the local firm has a better idea of what goes on normally. An ability to deal with the client quickly, and an ability to understand our needs. And sometimes these unusual tax situations will require a bit of poking around. It might require communicating with the local tax office to try to confirm, for example, the special deal that our client seems to have had with the taxability. And again, we're looking for somebody to understand the nature of our engagement. So if you're a firm that's not comfortable doing audit in a public company setting, we understand that. And we're okay to go somewhere else. And if you can't do it, just tell us. In our case, we're very lucky the firms really understand this. And once again, communication is the key. Because if you do this on a sort of an email basis without really communicating until after it's happened, it doesn't really work. You've got to talk before, during, and after the work goes on. It doesn't seem like a big chunk of work initially, but bear in mind that we probably do about 8 or 9 of these on December 31st, and some of them have multiple locations, so it's quite a logistical exercise for our team and also for the people who do this. we've had good luck with this, and I think it's fair to say that we probably couldn't do this without relying on member firms like PrimeGlobal. We just wouldn't be able to do it properly. So, unlike some people who are waiting for the phone to ring or for a PrimeGlobal inbound referral, we're actually looking to be able to place work in cases like this with people who know how to do it for us properly. So those are examples of things that have worked well for us in the past. I'll go through the 2 or 3 points that I think maybe are the conclusion out of this sort of discussion. And I think they would be this. Generally, the process appears to work. If you work the process, you'll get results. But you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And I think on a lot of occasions, you may end up, as Peter pointed out, you may put something into it, but you're not getting anything out of it directly at that moment. You're simply building a relationship, or building competence, or building reputation within the organization. I think it's about relationships. It takes time to build relationships. So coming to events like this, member firms dealing with each other on their own, I think helps to strengthen and build those relationships. And the more you do that, the more you're going to get the results you're looking for, and take away all the questions about, is that firm competent, or are they sufficiently staffed or knowledgeable in the area that they deal with. Communication, I think, is also the key. I don't think you can just fire off something and expect to get a result. I think a lot of times the communication has to be more than 1 or 2 emails or discussions. It has to be ongoing, particularly if you don't know the firm very well. So I think the encouraging thing would be to communicate. Even if you don't have a pending engagement, it may be worth giving a call to see how the last engagement proceeded, or if there's anything else coming out of it. And I think as the last example pointed out, I was going to say this, a similar point, but if you don't have the expertise in-house and you don't have the time or the capacity to do the engagement, it's okay to say no. There's very direct ways of doing that, and I'd rather get the direct answer quickly, and then I can decide what else I'm going to do in terms of solving that problem. Window dressing is not going to help. We're looking for a solution, and the client's looking for a solution, so if you can't have the engagement, it's okay to refer it to somebody else, perhaps another member firm.